Are you juggling a Kindle for Amazon Books and a Kobo for your EPUBs? Wish you could combine them into one super e-reader? Imagine having all your Kindle and Kobo reads on a single device. No more choosing between ecosystems. And what if that device not only did both, but also added a splash of color to your books? Today I'm going to look at the BOOX Note Air 4C. It has an incredibly long name and is a 10.3-inch color e-ink tablet that promises to be the ultimate upgrade for fiction book lovers. It runs full Android, which means yes, Kindle and Kobo apps together on one screen. Let's see if this gadget can truly replace your trusty Kindle or Kobo, and maybe even your notebook too. Welcome back to RazuTales. Let's set the stage. Onyx Books, the company behind the Note Air 4C, isn't your typical e-reader brand. It's more like the wild child of the e-ink world, taking e-readers into tablet territory. The Note Air 4C is part of their ecosystem of e-ink devices that run on full Android 13. Unlike Kindle or Kobo, which log you into their own software. That key difference means you're not tied to one bookstore or app. In fact, the Note Air 4C comes with Google Play Store on board, so you can install any reading app you want. Amazon Kindle, Kobo, Libby for library books, Google Play Books, comics apps, you name it. This opens up a world of content that a regular Kindle or Kobo can't touch. But does all that flexibility make for a better reading experience? How does the Air 4C compare to a Kindle or Kobo when you just want to curl up with a good novel? And can it handle note-taking well enough to challenge devices like the Kindle Scribe or Kobo Ellipsa? We're about to dive into the BOOX Note Air 4C, covering its reading chops, writing superpowers, extra features, and the drawbacks that might be deal breakers. Alright, first up, reading, the bread and butter of any e-reader. The Note Air 4C immediately stands out with its display. It sports a 10.3-inch e-ink Kaleido-free color screen, which is something neither the Kindle nor Kobo, as of now, offer. The Kindle Colorsoft is out, but has been having trouble with defects, and the color on the Note Air 4C is, in my opinion, far better. You'll find the link for my Colorsoft review at the end of this video. This modern display on the Air 4C means that book covers, comics, manga, and even highlighted text can appear in 4,000 colors. If you're coming from a traditional Kindle Paperwhite or Kobo Clara with monochrome e-ink, seeing color on an e-ink screen feels almost magical. Cover art looks more lively, and reading a graphic novel or a colorful chart in a non-fiction book becomes much more engaging. The display is still very sharp for regular text too. Black and white content renders at 300 ppi, which is as crisp as a Kindle. In color mode, the resolution halves to 150 ppi, which means text and images in color won't be quite as razor sharp on close inspection. But in practice, when you're just reading a novel, you might not notice that drop. Text stays clear in black and white, and you only see the lower resolution when color images or comics are on screen. And keep in mind, color e-ink is more muted than an LCD tablet. Don't expect iPad-like vibrancy here. Colors look pastel and subtle. It's cool tech, but not meant to dazzle with brightness. More to add a gentle splash of color to an otherwise grayscaled world. Now, how does it feel turning pages on the Note Air 4C versus a Kindle or Kobo? In one word, fast. This device has a snappy octa-core processor and 6 GB of RAM under the hood. Flipping pages is ultra fast and buttery smooth. I was impressed that there's barely any lag between tabs. In fact, the Air 4C offers different refresh modes like normal, fast, and ultra fast, with its BOOX Super Refresh technology to optimize how quickly the e-ink screen refreshes. Even in normal mode, it's at least on par with a Kindle page turn, if not quicker. Kindle and Kobo e-readers have gotten faster over the years, but the Note Air 4C's extra horsepower means you can turn pages quickly and see less of the black flash that e-ink screens usually do when refreshing. The page turns on the Air 4C feel instant with no latency, almost like using an iPad. And if you hate ghosting, You know, those faint traces of the previous page. The Air4C refresh tech and an even special regal mode ensure each page appears clean without needing constant full-screen flashes. Comfort during long reading sessions is a big factor. So how does the Note Air 4C stack up? The device is larger and heavier than a standard Kindle. It weighs 420 grams. That's roughly double the weight of a Kindle Paperwhite. In practice, you'll definitely feel the difference during marathon reading sessions. A Paperwhite or Kobo Libra is easier to hold one-handed for hours. That said, the Note Air 4C is impressively slim, only 5.8 millimeters thick, and has a sturdy aluminum chassis. It also smartly features a thicker bezel on the left side, which acts as a grip for your thumb. This asymmetrical design means you can hold it like a magazine, and it feels natural resting in one hand despite the weight. With a magnetic cover that doubles as a stand attached, it gets heavier, but the case can prop up for hands-free reading. For pure couch reading, a lighter Kindle might win on comfort, but the Air 4C isn't unwieldy for its size. It feels solid and premium, and the bigger screen can actually reduce eye strain since you can use a larger font or see more text at once. Speaking of eyes, the Note Air 4C has all the front light comforts you'd expect. It's got an adjustable front light display with warm and cool LEDs. So for late night reading, you can dial in an amber color or during the day a cooler white, just like the Kindle Oasis or Kobo Sage's front lights. The screen is also flush with the bezel and has an anti-glare coating, so outdoor readability is excellent. Like any e-ink reader, you can take it out in bright sunlight and get zero glare. Something an iPad or phone just can't do. In fact, reading on the Air 4C outdoors feels just as comfortable as on a Kindle Paperwhite. E-ink is e-ink. What about annotations and highlights while reading? Kindle and Kobo devices let you highlight text and type out notes? Sure. But the Note Air 4C with its stylus invites you to literally write on the page. In the built-in Neo Reader app, you can highlight text or even draw and scribble directly on PDFs and EPUB files as you read. It's like having a pencil and highlighter with your book. For example, if you're reading a PDF of an article or a textbook, you can underline or write in the margins freely, just as you would on paper. Kindle Scribe partially offers this. You can write on PDFs and add sticky note scribbles in Kindle books, and Kobo Ellipsa lets you mark up PDFs and Kobo Store books. But with the Air 4C, you have the flexibility to annotate in any app or format. Even a Kindle app book could be screenshotted and doodled on if you wanted, though it is a bit clunky. The takeaway is that for the average fiction novel, you might not scribble notes often. But if you're an active reader who loves annotating or you read a lot of non-fiction, the Air 4C provides a more natural way to mark up your books than a non-stylus Kindle or Kobo ever could. Plus, you can export or share those annotated PDFs easily later. It's the closest thing I've seen to having a physical book and notebook combined on a digital device. Now, let's talk about the second half of this device's identity, note-taking. The Note in Note Air 4C isn't just for show. This gadget is as much a digital notebook as it is an e-reader. If you're considering upgrading from a Kindle or Kobo, this is a whole new world because neither the basic Kindle nor most Kobo models support handwriting at all, except specialty models like the Scribe or the Ellipsa. First off, writing feel. The Air 4C's included Pen Plus stylus is a battery-free pen that offers 4,000 levels of pressure sensitivity. And that's on par with the top e-ink pens out there. Writing on the Note Air 4C screen feels shockingly good, thanks to a subtly textured screen surface. You get a bit of friction like pen on paper, instead of slippery glass. The stylus glides easily with just the right amount of resistance, making handwriting feel natural. There's virtually no discernible lag between your pen stroke and the line appearing. Without having done any scientific examination, I would still say that I found zero latency when sketching on PDFs, and it just feels as instant as writing on an iPad. In side-by-side comparison, The Kindle Scribe's pen input is also very low latency and pleasant, and the Scribe might feel slightly more paper-like, but it's a very close call. For all intents and purposes, the Note Air 4C is right up there with the best. You jot something down and the ink flows immediately on the screen. The note-taking software on the Air 4C is where it leaves Kindle and Kobo in the dust. The Air 4C's native Notes app is packed with features. You can choose from a variety of pen types: ballpoint, fountain pen, brush, pencil, highlighter, etc., and even use colors for your ink. Up to 18 color presets on the device, which appear in color on the screen, of course. So you could underline in red, annotate in blue, highlight in yellow, a game changer for visual thinkers who code their notes by color. Kindle Scribe and Kobo Ellipsa, by contrast, are limited to monochrome writing. The Air 4C lets you unleash a bit of creativity, or at least makes your notes more organized with color cues. It also supports layers in a note, and I love this, just like Photoshop or drawing apps. That means you can write or sketch on one layer and keep a template or imported image on the base layer without messing it up. You can also add notes on top of notes. Super useful if you're, say, annotating a form or tracing over a diagram. You can have up to 5 layers on top of the base layer, which is plenty for complex note-taking, and most other e-notebooks don't even offer layering. Templates are built in too. You can write on lined paper, grid, music staff, planners, etc. to structure your notes. Both Kindle Scribe and Kobo Ellipsa offer some page templates, but the Air 4C gives you the flexibility to even import custom templates if you want a specific layout. When it comes to organizing and exporting your notes, the Air 4C has you covered. Notebooks can be up to 500 pages long, so one digital notebook can hold an entire semester of lectures or a big project's notes. You can tag and search your handwritten notes thanks to OCR features. Yes, the Note Air 4C can convert your handwriting to typed text with a pretty good success rate. With one tap, my messy scrawl turned into editable text that I could copy or export. Extremely handy for sharing meeting notes or turning your handwriting draft into a Word document. Kobo Ellipsa and the Kindle Scribe actually have similar handwriting to text function, so the Air 4C isn't alone here. But the note-taking doesn't stop there. The device can also record audio notes, it has microphones, and sync writing with audio. Insert images into your notes. Imagine taking a screenshot of a chart and then drawing pointers around it in your notes, and even hyperlink your notes. This is more like a full-blown note-taking app akin to OneNote or Evernote, rather than the very simple notebook app on the Kindle Scribe. And here's the kicker for power users. Since the Note Air 4C is Android, you can also just install your favorite note-taking app if you prefer. Many people love Microsoft OneNote or Evernote for their cloud sync and organization, and those apps are just a download away from the Air 4C. I tried OneNote on the Air 4C and it works. I could draw and write with the stylus and sync to my PC. The experience isn't as perfectly tuned as the built-in Notes app. For example, OneNote's ink is a little slower because it's not optimized for e-ink. But it is usable. You could similarly use Google Keep, Notion, or any app you like for notes. This is something Kindle Scribe and Kobo just can't do. They don't support external apps at all. With the Air 4C, if tomorrow a new note-taking app comes out that everyone loves, you aren't locked in. You can just install it on your e-ink tablet. Also worth noting, you can split screen on the Note device. So, for example, you can have a book open on one side and a notepad on the other, which is fantastic for studying. Try doing that on a Kindle. One question that Kindle and Kobo upgraders often have is, can I annotate within the Kindle or Kobo apps on the Air 4C? The Kindle app for Android wasn't designed for stylus input. It's made for touch and scroll, so you can't draw directly in a Kindle book there as you read. However, the Air 4C has some clever options. You can use a system-wide handwriting layer that floats over apps to jot something down, or simply highlight text in the Kindle app and type a note with the on-screen keyboard. It's not as seamless as writing in the native Reader app, but at least you have the option to keep all your Kindle highlights in one place. In contrast, the Kindle Scribe will let you write notes on Kindle books, but only as little sticky notes that you have to open. You can't scribble in the margins of a Kindle book, even on Scribe. So, weirdly enough, neither solution is perfect for Kindle book annotation. Scribe uses sticky notes, the Air4C uses the Kindle app, which wasn't built for pens. If you're big on annotation, you might just export your Kindle book as a PDF or use another app where you can freehand. But the key point here is that the BOOX Note Air 4C excels at note-taking. It's a device you'd buy not just to consume content, but to actively create and organize notes. For students, researchers, and journal writers, that could justify it alone. It's truly like having an iPad with e-ink, while still keeping the e-reader functionality alongside. Now, beyond reading and writing, what else can this device do? In short, a lot more than your average Kindle or Kobo. Here are some extra features that fiction readers and productivity nerds alike might appreciate. First, there is the app ecosystem and the flexibility it provides. The Note Air 4C is basically a tablet in e-reader clothing. With Google Play, you can install pretty much any app. That means if you prefer Nook or Google Books or have a script subscription, go ahead and install those apps. You're not stuck with one store's selection. Have a huge PDF collection in Dropbox? You can put the Dropbox app on this. Want to listen to podcasts or use a read it later service like Pocket? It's just an app download away. This kind of flexibility is unheard of in Kindle land, where you're limited to what Amazon allows. Or Kobo, which has some integrations like Overdrive for libraries, but nowhere near full app support. The Note Air 4C basically consolidates all your reading and note apps into one device. You could switch between reading a Kindle ebook to a Kobo EPUB to a Comixology comic to a web article in Chrome, all on one device. It's awesome. But I'll discuss in a bit, it can also be a double-edged sword. Web browsing. Yes, you can actually browse the web on an e-ink screen. The Air 4C has both a built-in browser and the option to install others like Chrome or Firefox. The experience is nowhere near as smooth as on a phone or an iPad, of course. E-ink refresh and slower loads makes it a bit tedious for heavy browsing. But for reading text-heavy websites or articles, it works in a pinch. I found it useful for checking Wikipedia or looking up a quick reference while reading. Because of the color screen, even images on web pages appear in color. It's not something you'll use for graphic-heavy sites or social media scrolling. Ghosting and lag would drive you nuts. But as a secondary feature, it's nice to have a distraction-free web reader. Kindle's experimental browser is very limited. The Air 4C gives you a more capable browser thanks to Android, multimedia and audiobooks. Surprise, the Note Air 4C has audio capabilities. It has dual speakers built in and Bluetooth 5.1 for headphones. This means you can listen to audiobooks or music. You could install the Audible app for Amazon audiobooks or use Spotify or listen to text-to-speech. The device supports text-to-speech out of the box in its Reader app, so it can read aloud any ebook to you in a pinch. The voice is a typical robotic voice, but serviceable. Neither Kindle nor Kobo e-ink devices, except Kindle via Bluetooth, have speakers. Most Kindles since the Oasis rely on Bluetooth headphones for audio. Having built-in speakers on the Air 4C is convenient for quick listening or if you're in a quiet spot. Podcasts, ambient music while writing, or audiobook immersion, it's all possible here. The Note Air 4C even has microphones, so you can use voice recording or voice typing. Conceivably, you could do a Zoom call or dictate notes. It's not a primary use, but it highlights that this is more than just an e-reader. Productivity and other apps. Because it's basically an Android tablet, you can use other apps, email, calendar, cloud storage, even light games. Now, you wouldn't buy this to replace your main tablet for those tasks. The e-ink screen's slow refresh makes certain interactive apps very awkward. But if you needed to quickly check an email or review a document in Google Docs, you could. Some people install writing apps to do distraction-free writing. The device also supports split-screen multitasking, so you can have your notes on one side and a web page or book on the other. With 6 GB of RAM, it handles 2 apps fine. Just remember, it's not a speed demon like an iPad, so multitasking is useful, though pushing it with too many apps will introduce a lot of lag. Still, this level of functionality is light years beyond what any Kindle or Kobo can do. Those are single purpose. The Air4C is a Swiss Army knife of e-ink. In short, the Note 4C can be as simple or as extra as you want. You can ignore all these features and just use the included NeoReader app to read books. And it works great if you do. It supports all major formats, EPUB, PDF, MOBI, CBR, etc. Or you can treat it like an e-ink tablet, loading it up with apps and tools to fit your needs. It's this flexibility that really sets it apart in the e-reader world. No device is perfect, so let's pump the brakes and talk about where the BOOX Note Air 4C might disappoint or require some compromises. It's easy to get excited about the features, but consider these drawbacks before ditching your Kindle or Kobo. Software quirks and complexity. The freedom of Android means you also inherit the quirks of Android on e-ink. Not all third-party apps are optimized for an e-ink display. You might download an app that works fine on your phone, but on the Air 4C e-ink, it could be slow or certain UI elements might not render perfectly. Scrolling through a long web page or app timelines can feel laggy and look visually rough, lots of ghosting. Unless you tweak the refresh settings. The Air 4C does provide tuning options per app. You can adjust DPI, contrast, refresh mode for each app. But it takes some tinkering. By contrast, Kindle's closed system is fully tuned by Amazon for one purpose: reading. So you never have to think about refresh modes or app compatibility. With the Air 4C, you should expect a learning curve. You'll spend time in settings and experimenting to get the best experience. This is a gadget for tech tinkerers and power users in that sense. If you love to customize, it's a playground. If you prefer a device that just works out of the box with no fuss, a Kindle or Kobo might feel simpler. Now, let's talk about battery life. E-ink readers are known for lasting weeks on a single charge, but the Note Air 4C's battery life can vary greatly depending on usage. It has 3,700 mAh, which is actually quite beefy, and in pure e-reader terms, the Air 4C claims you'll get weeks of use. In reality, if you use it like a basic Kindle, reading a couple of hours a day, mostly black and white, Wi-Fi off, you probably can stretch to a few weeks per charge. However, once you start leveraging those extra features using color mode, keeping Wi-Fi on, running apps in the background, lots of note-taking and sketching, the battery will drain faster. I have been getting several days of heavy use from one charge. Think of it like a small tablet. You'll likely charge it a couple of times per week if you're a power user. This is still better than an LCD tablet which dies in a day, but it's shorter than the marathon endurance of Kindle Paperwhite, which might only need charging once every 2 to 4 weeks under moderate use. Also, color e-ink itself draws more power than mono, and the front light usage affects it too. The Note Air 4C also doesn't support quick charging, so a full charge takes a few hours. For most, the battery life is more than sufficient, but just know it's not a dramatic leap ahead of other large e-ink devices. In fact, Kindle Scribe and Kobo Ellipsa have similar battery behaviors, days rather than weeks if you use them a lot. Here's the elephant in the room. The Note Air 4C is expensive. Retailing around $499 it's priced at a premium. That's roughly the cost of 3 Kindle Paperwhites, or 1 Kindle Scribe plus maybe a basic Kindle for your kid. Compared to the Kobo Ellipsa 2nd edition, which is around $399, or the base Kindle Scribe, which starts at $340, the Air 4C is definitely an investment. Now, it's arguably justified by the tech. Color screen, higher specs, premium build, Android flexibility. So you are getting a lot for the money. But if your main goal is just to read novels, it's hard to ignore that a $130 Kindle will accomplish that task extremely well. The Note Air 4C is for enthusiasts willing to pay for the extra capabilities. It's a device that comes at a premium and might feel overwhelming for users who just want simplicity. So you have to ask, will you take advantage of its features enough to warrant the cost? If yes, it could be worth it. If not, a cheaper device might make you just as happy. To me, those are the major downsides. A more complicated software experience, somewhat shorter battery life under heavy use, and a high price tag. In summary, the Note Air 4C isn't trying to be a simple no-frills Kindle. It's trying to be an all-in-one device. That means some trade-offs in simplicity and cost. So who is the BOOX Note Air 4C really for? And should Kindle or Kobo owners consider the jump? After spending time with it, I'd say this device is a dream come true for a certain type of user. If you're a power reader with a foot in multiple ecosystems, for example, you have a bunch of Kindle books but also use Kobo or library apps, the ability to unify all your content on one device is a huge win. No more juggling devices or feeling envy that one reader has a feature the other lacks. Likewise, if you not only read but also write or annotate heavily, think students, researchers, writers, or journal keepers, the Note Air 4C offers an experience that blows away what a basic Kindle or Kobo can do. It straddles the line between an e-reader, a notebook, and a tablet. That means you can go from reading a novel to marking up a PDF article to jotting down your own story ideas to checking your email, all without switching device. For the tech-savvy bookworm or the professional who annotates dozens of PDFs, this kind of versatility can be amazing. However, if your reading life is straightforward, say you mainly stick to the Kindle store and you just want to sink into chapters of a novel every night, the Note Air 4C is probably overkill. You might be paying for features you won't use and dealing with an interface more complex than necessary. If you prefer simplicity, you may find the open Android system overwhelming, whereas those willing to embrace the learning curve will get an experience few other devices can match. In other words, this device is not for everyone, and that's okay. BOOX has carved out a niche for the enthusiast crowd. For many Kindle or Kobo loyalists, the core reading experience in terms of clarity of text and ease on the eyes remains equally great on their simpler devices. The Note Air 4C doesn't magically make text look better, but it does add a layer additional functionality on top of reading to make it a multi-tool. It's the ultimate e-reader for geeks and super users who want to tinker and combine all their libraries and tasks. If that's you, you'll likely love it. If you just want to read without fuss, a Kindle Paperwhite or Kobo Sage might actually serve you better and save you money. In summary, the BOOX Note Air 4C is an impressive leap in e-reader evolution, bringing the openness of Android and the novelty of color e-ink to users' hands. It really can replace a stack of devices, your Kindle, your Kobo, your notebook, and even some tablet functions all in one. The question to ask yourself is, do you need that? If you're excited by the idea of carrying one device that does it all, and you don't mind paying a premium for it, the Note Air 4C is absolutely worth the look. But if your current Kindle or Kobo already makes you perfectly happy for reading, you might stick with it until you feel limited. One thing's for sure, it's great to finally have options that break the mold. A color e-ink dual ecosystem e-reader. A few years ago that sounded like sci-fi. Now it's here, on my desk, and it works. Would you consider switching from a Kindle or Kobo to a device like this? Or do you prefer keeping things simple? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you're ready to check out the Note Air 4C or any devices mentioned, I have affiliate links in the description below. If you use those links, it helps support the channel at no extra cost to you. If you're curious about the competition, be sure to watch my Kindle Scribe review and my review of the Kindle Colorsoft. Subscribe for more videos on bookish content, and happy reading on whatever device you choose. See you in the next chapter.